Hello, and welcome to I Am Dad Podcast with your fatherhood authority, Kenneth Braswell. 30 minutes of wisdom, information, resources, and nuggets to help you on your fatherhood journey. Or maybe you're just curious and want to hear some real talk about fatherhood, family, and the minds of men. Well, guess what? We got you too. Sit back, grab your pad and pen, and maybe even bring a little something to sip on. Enjoy 30 straight minutes of fatherhood, family, and fun with the Fatherhood Authority, Kenneth Braswell.
Welcome to I Am Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth Braswell. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Excited is an understatement word. For our guest today, longtime friend. He's been in this space and he's been toiling and doing incredible work in communities that are often not spoken about. And so I'm excited about this conversation because I'm excited about someone that I have admired in this space. His forward thinking, his progressiveness, his independence of voice, and being able to speak specifically to the community that he serves. And so I'm honored today to welcome Albert Pooley, a visionary leader and the founder and president of the Native American Fatherhood and Families Association, a proud member of the Navajo Nation. Mr. Pooley has devoted his life to strengthen families and communities through culturally grounded education, advocacy, and healing. With a background in social work and public administration, and as a marriage and family counselor, Mr. Pooley brings deep professional and personal insight to the conversation on responsible fatherhood. He and his wife, Julia, have raised 6 children and are grandparents to 16, living examples of the legacy he is working to build. Under his leadership, NAFFA's transformative curriculum, Fatherhood is Sacred and Motherhood is Sacred, linking generations by strengthening relationships, addressing family violence and abuse, and suicide prevention, have reached 60,000 parents, and they've trained over 2,500 facilitators across North America. Today, we'll explore how Albert Pooley's passion for cultural preservation and healthy parenting has become a national movement, and why the values of sacred fatherhood and motherhood resonate far beyond Native communities. Let's bring Mr. Pooley to the stage. How you doing today, sir?
I'm fine, thank you, Kenneth. How are you?
I'm doing good. I can't complain. Still grinding, still trying to make a difference. Still trying to impact, those out there that need the capacity to be the best that they already desire to be. They just need the support and confidence and affirmation that they can actually do it. We start our podcast off very uniquely because I think it's important for people to kind of know this particular backdrop of a story. And we simply ask our guests to tell us their daddy story. However you want to tell it, whether it is from the perspective of your father or being a father or both. What's your daddy story?
Well, I was very fortunate because I was raised in a very loving and caring family. My father my mother were very caring. They raised 7 children. And I am very fortunate because I have 6 children of my own and 16 grandkids. My wife and I, Julie, were married for 55 years. She just passed away this past summer. So I'm going through a whole new transition of life where I'm living alone, but I get to see my family quite often. So anyway, I've been very fortunate with that and very blessed to have such a wonderful life. I started this program back in about 20 years ago. As you know, Kenneth, we've been around for a long time. And my background as a practitioner is that I'm a marriage and family therapist by profession. And I could see that the need that families are really in need of a lot of things. And so I work primarily with Native American people. We work now with over 350 Native American tribes throughout North America, throughout Canada, and throughout the United States, all the way from Alaska to Florida, from Maine to Hawaii. We've done this, as you know, without any federal assistance of any kind. Tribes are buying our services on their own. We have programs now in social services, behavioral health, education, in schools, and in different penal institutions and things like this.
Mhm.
Our whole thrust here is that I've learned over the years that knowledge rarely changes people. You know,
Mm.
programs are knowledge based, and why do I say that? Is because to have people change, you have to make them feel. That's how they fall in love, and that's how they fall out of love. Is
Mhm.
that when they feel connected, they listen to you, and you begin to get their attention. So, what I'm saying is that you have to make people feel. But most programs are knowledge based. They think by getting more knowledge that they're going to change lives. Well, knowledge is important for things such as to be a mechanic, to be an accountant. You have to have knowledge. But to change people, you must really make them feel. You must make them feel special. Make them feel important.
Mhm.
Then they begin to listen to you. And so we say to our parents, how do we make our people feel? And with Native Americans, they understand the sanctity of a lot of things like rivers and mountains and burial grounds, and even certain animals like buffaloes and eagles. They are sacred, and we say yes, indeed, they are sacred. There's no question about that. But we tell them that, you know what? Unfortunately, we have missed the mark because we have identified everything to be sacred except two of the most sacred things on earth. And we say that's your role as a father and your role as a mother. There's
Mhm.
nothing more sacred than that. You've been given the responsibility of raising your children in a way that you have no idea how important that is. And we have learned that when people really understand, not know, but when they really understand that their role as a parent is sacred, you know what? They are easier to work with. They
Mhm.
become more determined to change. And I explain to them sometimes our parents spend more time on taking care of their dancing regalia, for an example, than do their own children. You know,
Mm.
like certain things like mementos, like eagle feathers and things, they take better care of those things than their own children.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, what has happened is that a lot of our kids today are being raised in foster care, in group homes, on the streets, in jail, are being raised with relatives, but not raised with their own mom and dad. And so that's why we had to make them feel. We say, you know what, fatherhood is sacred, motherhood is sacred, and then they begin to understand the importance of their role as a father and mother. We don't bring any religion into our program. We never have, but we've been misunderstood. But we do bring the cultural component that every tribe I've worked with, over 400 tribes in my career, every tribe traditionally believes in a creator. They
Mhm.
believe that there is a creator. And we say, you know what? Not only is there a creator, but we call him the master healer. He's the master healer
Mhm.
because people need to be healed physically, emotionally, spiritually, and socially. So how do we do that? So that's our whole program is based upon that. Like I said, we don't bring any religion, but we do tell the mom and dads this: know what you believe, not what your mom and dad believes. What do you believe? Because
Right.
once you understand what you believe, you protect it, you defend it because it's your belief. And we say, you know what? The best way to do it is to ask the creator, have him give you guidance, have him give you direction. And even
Mhm.
first of all, start off, is there even a creator? Ask him that. Are you real?
Mm.
Do that. Help me understand who you are. And so I work with the parents and I tell the mom and dads this, in all reality, people do pray for things such as for a miracle. They pray for
Mm.
a miracle to happen. I said, you know what? Miracles do happen, but they don't work either because they forget so quickly. I said, but you know what? There are two miracles of life. That these are real miracles of life. And I said, let me explain to you what they are. Miracle number one is you. My job as a practitioner is to have you understand how unique you are, how valuable you are, how important you are. You are irreplaceable. And you are precious, precious, precious. And that's the truth. So again, you are a walking, talking miracle. My job is to have you understand the importance of who you are. That's
Mhm.
miracle number one. Because there'll never be a person like you. There's never been a person like you ever, ever. And there'll never be a person exactly like you ever, ever again. So understand the importance of who you are. That's miracle number one. Miracle number two is called the miracle of forgiveness. Learn to forgive understand the importance of learning to forgive yourself and to forgive people who have offended you, who have hurt you. So we say, let's start with that. Because many times, if you don't learn to forgive yourself, you drag around this baggage for years, and it really prevents you from moving forward. You just and we said, let's help you go through that process as a process of healing. And so I said, and we've all made mistakes. No one is perfect. So let's help you. Let's help you do that. I said, let me give you an example. I just say hypothetically, let's say there's a magical key to your heart. Let's just pretend, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I says, I can help you find that key. I really can. But it's deep, it's deep in your heart. I can help you find it, but I cannot turn it for you. Nobody can turn it.
Mm-hmm.
Therapist, no counselor, no medicine man, no preacher. Nobody can turn it. Only you can turn it. And when you figuratively speaking, when you find that key, it's a special key. You can turn it, and figuratively, you can take it out of your heart, and you and only you can begin to unshackle yourself from your past, one at a time, one at a time. Because what some people, their memories become a life sentence. I say, you know what? It's a memory. Let me help you understand the importance now. Like that you can relinquish those things. Let me show you how it's done. Let me explain to you how it's done. And one of the things you have to do is understand the importance of patience.
Mm-hmm.
Patience with yourself and people around you. So we go through a whole process of that. And I said, let's talk about healing for an example. I tell them there's two components to healing. One is called pain, and one is called understanding. And there's a reason for pain. I said, you know what? I said, let me give you an example. Let's say you need some work done on your teeth. You know you need it done, but you don't go to the dentist until the pain hits you. Then you go to the dentist.
Mm-hmm.
The same with pain. Pain is to remind you that you need to change, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, or spiritual pain. It's still pain. There's a reason for that. It's a reminder that we need to change. Okay, now, what really is healing? Healing is really understanding, not knowing, but understanding. Because when you really understand, you have more patience, you have more tolerance, and the list goes on because you understand. It doesn't mean you agree or condone, it means you understand. And I
Mm-hmm.
tell them, one of the characteristics of the Creator is He understands us perfectly. That's why He gives us so many chances to change, because He
Mm-hmm.
understands the vulnerability of mortality. He understands that. And so I said, that's why He gives us so many chances. So again, when you really understand, you don't judge, you don't condemn because you understand. Okay? It doesn't mean you agree or support or condone, it means you understand. And I says, that's one of the characteristics of people that people want to have. They want people to understand them. Okay? Because when you really understand, you offer so much more to that individual. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding is really a gift. So we say, let's understand. Now, we've all made mistakes. And I said, let me give you an example. So we teach in our program, we teach principles. We don't teach values because values can change. For an
Mm-hmm.
example, the first principle we talk about is we talk about the Creator. Now we say, you need to understand, you need to find out, is there really a Creator? Ask Him, find out. We don't put a name on Him. Find out for yourself. Some people call Him Jehovah, God, Christ. I don't, you find out for yourself. I said, let me give you an example. You have many names as you were growing up. Your mom might have called you cutie or sweetie or whatever. Your friends will have nicknames for you. There's all kind of names, but the real is that you're the same. The Creator has many names too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but He's real. You got to find out who He is. Okay. The second principle we talk about prayer, but we show how we identify prayer is this. Prayer is your personal invitation to invite the Creator into your life. He's here, but He's not going to come unless He's invited.
Mm-hmm.
When you invite Him to pray, it requires this. And I said, and to change, it requires this. It requires courage. Because when you start changing your life, you're going to run into a lot of jerks that will try to pull you back down. But
Right.
some of the biggest jerks in life are called family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
To change and improve, people will start making fun. They know exactly what buttons to push, what strings to pull to get you angry. Okay, so let's develop courage. Okay, because one of the biggest things that makes us fall again is is fear.
One
Okay,
of the things that I as you're talking, I just want to throw this in the mix because I want you to speak to this because it's in the theme of what you're talking about. Um, one of the things I transitioned from it a long time ago. I just found some words to express the action. And you and I have heard this term over and over and over again, faith based. And it has been that word that people have tried to use to define who we are and how we should do what we do from the perspective of faith. And what I've been using now is faith inspired, right? Because faith inspired says that, to your point, I am not bringing religion into the space, but I am bringing my faith into the space and what I understand to know, about faith. And so when you ask the question, whether or not someone knows who their creator is, my question always is, what do you believe in? Because I know you believe in something, right? And they'll say, well, I don't really believe in anything. Yes, you do. Because when you work for 2 weeks, you believe that your check is going to show up. When you sit down, you believe that your chair is going to still be there when you sit down. When you cross over a bridge, you believe and have faith that the bridge is going to hold you until you make it to the other side. So you have the capability of believing. The question is exactly what you just said. What do you believe in, and who do you believe in, and who do you believe in when your own understanding doesn't give you an answer to a question that you have? When you're bringing faith into the space for your fathers and for your mothers, and you have some resistance to that piece of the conversation, how do you explain to them and get them to really reconcile with the whole notion that you do believe in something, and that's a question you have to answer?
Okay, how I define faith is this: faith, first of all, is a verb, and verb means action. Okay,
Mm,
so I say, what do you know? What you believe, not what your mom believes, your dad. What do you believe?
mm,
Then faith is putting those beliefs into action. Okay, that's what faith is. Okay, from my point of view. And so again, because if people don't put their beliefs into action, I tell them, you know what, you will literally waste your life away
mhm,
because you just dream and fantasize about something that happened and it ain't going to happen. So
mm,
put your beliefs into action. And so we say, what prayer is, though, is that it's your invitation to invite the Creator into your life. Now, again, maybe you don't believe in the Creator. That's fine. Ask Him. Ask whoever you think believe whoever that is. Ask Him, is there really such thing as a Creator? Ask Him that. And I said, He'll answer you. If there's only one requirement in a prayer, one and one only. You don't have to have a cross or native use sage or tobacco or cedar, corn palm. There's nothing wrong with those things. There's only one requirement in a prayer. Are your words sincere? Are they from the
mm,
heart? That's all you need to have. So if your words are sincere, He will answer you in His own special way. Whatever that way is, I don't know. Okay,
mhm,
it's unique to you and Him. Okay, so then that's our first. And we say, you know what? We say we use people use the word spirituality really loosely. And I say, you know what? How we define spirituality? We say spirituality is a language, like English is a language, French is a language. Spirituality is a language, and this is the requirement of spirituality. It's a language of a soft, tender, open heart and a clear, clean mind. If your
mhm,
if your heart is soft, tender, and open, your mind is clear and clean, you will understand the spirit of spirit. You will understand the language of spirituality. And I said, the most spiritual people on this earth is not preachers, is not medicine men. The most spiritual people on this earth are the little children.
mm,
Because their hearts are soft, tender, and open, and their minds are clear and clean. I said, so again, they understand the language of spiritual. But I said, I go to a lot of prisons, and I tell the men this and women. There's a lot of guys. I says, most of you in prison you have this problem. I said, you're good men and women, okay? Most of the problem you have developed is that you are unfamiliar with a good life. You've never had a good life. You may
mm,
have gone into a family that was a lot of violence, a lot of addictions, a lot of chaos. So in your own special way to survive, because life was so brutal, you had to begin to shut yourself down, your mind and your heart, for your own survival. And people are just like this because life has been so brutal. Not because you're bad, but for your own survival. So my job is to nourish your spirit so that
Mhm.
you can open up. But it's not going to happen overnight. So again, let's go through that process of doing that. Now I said, that's the most, because most people are unfamiliar with a good life. They've never had it. And I said, let me give you an example. I said, how many of you in this room know how to fly a helicopter? They don't know. How many know what a helicopter is? They don't know what it is. It's not because you're dumb or stupid, because you're unfamiliar with learning how to fly a helicopter. Let's
Right.
teach you how to do it.
Right.
Spirituality is the very same way. There's a method you have to do, that you have to put in your beliefs into action, and this is how you do it. And that's our
Mhm.
process.
Yeah, we so just this past couple of weeks we had our last graduation of fathers here in Metro Atlanta. Um my staff challenged themselves to do something that was unprecedented, at least amongst the federal grantees. I'm sure someone else has done it before. But in our last cohort, we wanted to graduate 100 fathers. And so when they said it, I was like, okay, because typically our classes are about 40 to 45 fathers every quarter. I'm like, double it up. I like that. Let's see if you can do it. And they did it. Not only did they graduate 100, but it was 100 plus. It was about 107 who went through the entire process: the curriculum, pre and post surveys, exit surveys, um, classes. Many of them had 100% attendance in those classes. All of the things that they did, um, that people do not expect our dads to do, they accomplished it. And one of the things that we heard from them at the graduation when they spoke about the program is they didn't talk about things like child support and custody and getting a job and all of those things. The thing that resonated the most with them are exactly the things that you're talking about, is helping me with the ability to manage life and to think on my own and think for myself and to critically think and to make good decisions and lead with my heart and not with my head and have love and compassion in my heart for someone else. It sounds to me, um, Al, that in the curriculums that you created, that what you're talking about today is what you lean on the most, because you believe that if they understand those things that you're talking about, the other stuff comes easy.
Hmm. Well, what I've done is that as a therapist, when I did marriage and family counseling, most people look into your past. I don't do that. Not initially, because I want to get to know who they are first. Okay. And like I would say, for an example, let's say a couple comes in to see me. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't get into their past right off the bat. I want to get to know who they are. And I say this. First of all, I say, do you really want this marriage to work? I want to know. And I talk to them collectively and I talk to them independently. And I'm going to find out, like, I want to find out who is leaving, who's leaving who. If you're being left behind, I counsel you one way. If you're leaving the person, I counsel you a different way. But if you really want to make it work, I say, okay, I give them instructions on how to correct the problem. I don't get into their issues, but I say, you know what? If you really want to make this thing work, I give them ways to improve it. And I give them very, very simple. I give them assignments. Okay, because some people don't know how to. They're not familiar with these things. So let me just give you. I tell them the very first thing: if you want to make this marriage work, and I do the same thing with my guys coming out of prison. I say, do you really want to go back to your families? Yes. You really want to go back to the workforce? Yes. You want to go back to society? Yes. I don't care what you've done. That's a pass. Okay. You follow my instructions. I say, I'm a pretty good advocate. I will fight for you, but you better follow my instructions. And number one, I tell them this. I tell them the importance of just being kind. No program does that. We say, be kind. You speak kindly to each other. You do kind things for each other. With each, I do the whole thing of kindness. Number one. Number two, you learn the importance of being fair. Because when you're not fair, when you treat unfairly, you're going to have problems. Whether it's at home, whether it's in the office, you learn the importance of being fair. I go through the whole thing. Number three, need to understand to become the importance of being useful. You just can't be present. You got to be useful. Because if you're not useful, nobody wants you around.
Mhm.
So okay, let's teach you how to become useful. And then the next one is that we say this is the strongest you have thing going for you. This is the strongest thing you have going for you. It's called your attitude. Your attitude is so powerful, it literally immediately will push people away or invite them into your life. And I say, you know what? So let's look at your attitude. And I say, but some people have, pardon my English, but have a piss poor attitude. And they wonder, what's the problem? I'm sorry, you're the problem. You're the problem. Your attitude is so bad, it pushes people away. Now, but the other thing about attitude, we tell them this. Why is attitude so important? Because one of the things it is, it will determine how much you will learn. If you have a bad attitude, if you think you know it all, you have limited yourself. So with a good attitude, you can learn because now you can be instructed. You can follow instructions. So let's look and we work on attitude. And the fifth thing we do is now this. We teach them the importance of being responsible. Now, I say that. Let me give you an example. I say, do you own your own food? Or do you have to go to places to get food? Do you own your own clothes? Or do you have to borrow clothes? How about, do you own your own automobile? Would you like to own your own car? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, then you need to understand the importance of being responsible. Because if you don't own your own car, own your own food, you got to be responsible. I said, so when you're kind, when you're useful, when you're fair, when you have good attitude and you're responsible, everybody will want you around. Everybody. You know why? Because you have earned it. You have earned one of life's greatest gifts, people. You have earned the response. You understand one of life's greatest gifts. You are free. You are free, but you have to earn it. Now, no program does what we do. That's why I've been so successful. I don't depend on a federal grant. They cut me off. They've cut me off all the way down. I was put on the blacklist. I don't care. We are now in so many tribes. Now we're going international. This coming June, I'm going to Spain, Portugal, and France. And so it's growing because people are listening to the way we do things. We don't condemn people. We say now, and we say this, and it's in all our brochures. Understand, this is the truth. This is the truth. You are worth, as you may have heard this, you are worth more than the worst mistake you've ever made in your life, and that's the truth. My job is to understand that. We've all made mistakes. Number two, you can change. You can improve and you can progress in life. But you got to understand three important things. Number one, learn the importance of keeping your promises, keeping your word. If people kept their promises, divorce rates would drop, boom, like that. Number two, learn the importance of keeping rules. To be your friend, we have to have rules. I can't lie to you. I can't cheat you. I can't hurt you. If I break those rules, I'm gonna lose your friendship. Number three, learn the importance of keeping laws of the land and laws of nature. Laws of nature, like I can't jump off a 10-story building and think I can survive. I can't do it. Or laws of the land, learn I can't drink and drive and things like this. So if you learn those three things, you have earned life's greatest gift. You're free. You're free. And I say, you've heard some people are Christian. I say, I'm a Christian. The truth will set you free. We tell them exactly what that means. What that means. There's a lot of theory out there, but there's a law of change. There really is a law of change. But no one teaches that program except we.
Yeah, okay. But you're talking about life skills, and those are the things that we forget. And so this framing goes around programs that you got to give them interviewing skills and help them write resumes, and you got to help them communicate better with the mothers of their children, and you got to help them find an apartment, and they got to do all these other things. But what you're talking about are life skills, right? You're talking about helping someone become a good human.
Yes, what we do is that we call them our three pillars. The first thing we work on someone's self-worth. You have to understand the value of who you are, and everyone is valuable. That's why we tell them, understand something. You are unique. You are important. You're one of a kind. You are irreplaceable, and you are precious, 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 and that is the truth. My job as a practitioner is to begin to have you understand that. And when you understand taking care of yourself, when you take care of yourself, that doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're becoming responsible. And responsibility is a sign of maturity. You're finally growing up. Okay? Another thing we talk about them is we talk about their identity. Not who they want to be or who they pretend to be, but who you really are. Because if you don't have your identity, what you become a tag along. You just tag along. We've had enough of that. Become who yourself. Learn to like yourself, even learn to love yourself. Become more likable, become more lovable. That's who you are. And now, that's why in my program, I hate this word racism. I don't get into that. People that say racist, they're the ones that are racist. I understand them. I have a staff, and I don't care what you've done, what color or race you are. I tell them this. I had this one gal who was a Caucasian lady. She went to a meeting with me one day. Very bright lady, and she all there was in the room was all Native Americans. And she got him. She said, "My name." I said, "This is so and so." She got up. She said, "I'm. It's nice to be here." She says, and I'm sorry, I'm not Native American. And she gave a really good, beautiful report. Okay. The next day we were back at the office. She said, "How did I do, Mr. Pooley?" I said, "Well, you gave a really good presentation, but I'm really disappointed in you." And she says, "Why? What did I do wrong?" I said, let me tell you what you've done wrong. You've insulted your parents. You've insulted your parents. You had no say-so in the color of your skin or your race. And how dare you insult your parents like that? You have no idea what your mother did to have sacrifice for you to come to this earth. And the last thing you need to do is apologize for the color of your skin or your race. I said, it doesn't stop there, young lady. You've insulted your ancestors. You don't apologize for the color of your skin or your race. I said this. So my whole staff knows this. If you were in my presence, even if you apologize for your race, I will publicly embarrass you so you never do that again. Don't apologize for your race or your gender. Be proud of who you are. Be thankful. Be grateful. But people that say racist, a lot of these are politicians. They're more racist than anybody else because they want to divide people. They're the ones that are more racist. So I don't buy into that. I'm too old to have. I tell people I'm too old to make friends. I want you to change. I'll be 78 years old here in a few more. I don't have time to do that. I want my people to change. I want all people to change. And so I don't care if you're green. I want you to be a good, decent, honorable person. That's what I want you to become. And so when people that work for me, I have people here that are felons, that are alcoholics, that don't have an education. I don't care about that, but they're good people. And boy, they've changed. They become just valuable people in my eyes. And I said, because I won't be around that long, okay? And I said, I'm getting too. I can't travel like I used to. So I want people to carry on this work that we have developed here. And I don't care what color they are. I really don't care if you have a degree or not, because some people have a degree. They're just as screwed up as their clients are.
Yeah. And the crazy thing, Al, is I just finished writing a book, as I am beginning to shift into what I'm calling my seasoned space, right? And so, my elder space, embracing my elder space.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote this book called Too Seasoned to Care.
Mm-hmm.
How age contributes to wisdom and self-esteem. And basically, the book is about how when we get older, there is a particular clarity that comes over us about life. Until and to some people, it could feel like we don't care. And it isn't that we don't care, it is what we don't care about. And what we don't care about is how you see us, or how you see me, or what you think about me, or what you feel about me. The only thing that matters to me are the things that matter to me. And I'm too seasoned to care about anything else. And so I'm writing this book, and I'm going to do this whole series and speaking and tour and going around talking to folks who have moved into this space, who have um, used their entire life to achieve some level of success, whether it's money or housing or houses or real estate or business or whatever that is. And they're at our pace, at our space, and they're empty. They've never tapped into their purpose. They've
Mm-hmm.
never tapped into their calling in life. If you were to describe your calling in life, like your why, like we know what you do, we know how you do it, we know why you believe it's important to someone else to do it. But what is your why? What keeps you moving every day, even at your seasoned age, with the thirst to continue to be able to build the capacity of individuals to be the best they can be?
Well, I have never really thought of that, to be honest with you. But I tell my people this. people always say, I'm going to go to college and get an education, come back and help my people. And I say, that's wonderful. I said, when I was younger, I said the same thing. I said, but if you really want to help your people, if you want to help mankind, that's wonderful. But this is where you start. You make a goal and you become determined to become the best father, the best husband you can possibly be, the best wife, the best mother you can possibly be. Why? Because you become an inspiration to people around you. You become a guide to other people. They can say, I want what that family has. Because we can't change the world, but if you're going to change, you start by changing people in your own household. You start within the walls of your home. So become the best husband, the best father, the best wife, the best mother you can possibly be. That's how you help your people. That's how you help mankind. That's what you do. That's
Wow.
what
Let's dig in for the few minutes that we have left because I want to just touch on this because folks will try to understand the nuance, right? And so with me, it is you know Kenny Braswell works with Black fathers. No, I actually work with all fathers, but my ecosystem just happens to be around Black fathers. And you know what? I just happen to be Black. It's my
Mhm.
experience. It's the experience that I know the best. It is what I am around. Doesn't mean that I can't, just like you said, it doesn't mean that I can't go to Spain or Portugal or any other place on this earth and have this conversation and have it resonate to the audience that I'm speaking with. But the ecosystem that I happen to be in right now looks this way. And so, and then they look at you and say, tribal Native Americans, that this is who his circle of influence is educating and building the capacity of. And then we know the commonalities between those and others, and also the struggles and challenges between those. When you talk about, or when you think about the Native community, what are the nuances in really working with fathers that we may not be aware of that exist for you that may not exist for others who are working with fathers?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Uh,
What's different? What do you believe is different or the same working with Native American fathers as opposed to any other culturally
well,
cultural
I,
background?
I don't. Let me say it this way. A lot of people talk about historical trauma among Native people. Okay,
Mm,
I say that's true. Our people went through historical. I said, but everyone go through trauma. I said, let me explain to you what I mean by that. I said, our second principle. We talk about the creator. I said, our second principle we talk about is called choice. The only thing you really own, I tell people, is the right to choose. I says, I says, even after I die, I can choose to run to my wife or walk away from her. It's my choice. Okay. Now, so value the right to choose. Now, let me tell you something about choice. I tell her one of your greatest possession, your greatest possession is your life. You have one life, but your second greatest possession is the right to choose. Don't throw it away or give it away. Okay,
mhm,
but people do it all the time. But to have the right to choose, there must be opposition. There's up, down, hot, cold, happy, misery. If opposition was not if opposition was not there, choice would be useless, would be null and void. So I say, you know what? But this opposition, you know what? It has made you stronger than you even realize.
mhm,
I said, people have gone through opposition. They are stronger than I said. Not every native tribe that I've worked with, they believe that life continues after death. Every tribe believes that, traditionally believes that life continues after death. I said, when you die, because of the opposition you've had in your life, you are more resilient than you realize you are. You're stronger than you realize because you have paid a price, a high price that I don't want to pay. Learn to understand the price you paid in life. I said, maybe you've cried yourself to sleep. You've done all these things. You've been rejected. You've been abused. You've been neglected, and the list goes on and on. You paid a high price. Learn from that, because you know what? That will take you into when you become a real asset into the next life because you've learned to pay the hard prices of life. I says, understand how important you are. I says, I tell them you've heard a story about the sword, how swords were made. I say, you know what? They'll go up to years ago. They go up to the mountains, get this ore, bring the ore back down, then melt it. Put in the, but they'll build molds. How they want the sword to look like. They get this liquid ore. They pour it in these molds, and they let it sit for dry for several days. And when the metal gets hard, they break these these swords. They look like swords, but are they ready for battle yet? No, they're not. They look like that, but they're not. Then they put it through a process called tempering. They put it in the hot coals, they bring it out, they pound on it with a hammer, put it in the cold water, pound it, cold. They're taking all the impurities out of this metal, the iron, the copper, even the vegetation, the air, the any kind of leaves. It's all now you have steel, a strong piece of steel. It looks like a sword, but is it ready for battle? No, just about. Now let's sharpen that sword. And that's my job, to have you understand how strong and resilient you are. You paid a high price in life. Let's learn from it. Or maybe you're still paying for it. Let's learn from it. Okay. Let's sharpen those skills. Then you're ready for battle. Okay. Because you know what? The biggest battle you can have in life, the hardest battle you can have, is to keep your families together. That's the hardest battle you'll ever have. And that's worth it. It's worth it because our families are being scattered, they're being broken. Okay. And so I said, that's the hardest, because one of the hardest things today is raise a family today. It's hard to raise a family. And that's why so many people walk away from it. Some people run away from it because it's too scary. Let's sharpen. Let's look at it. And so we go through the whole process. And I'm saying, you're stronger than you even. Let me show you how strong and resilient you are, not how weak and how broken you are. Let the therapist do that. I don't do it that way.
All right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I do.
Yeah, you started out with fatherhood is sacred, and then you created motherhood is sacred. Um, what was important for you to begin to create something to focus specifically on motherhood? Because we don't typically talk a lot about motherhood in the same way we talk about fatherhood in the work.
Well, in actually, it was my fathers that said to me, Al, our wives should be learning what we're learning. They were really changing, and they were saying. So then now our parents are saying, our children. Now we have a whole youth program. Now we're in schools, and the kids are loving it. In fact, one father says, Al, I wish I had this information when I was growing up. And he says that, so it's now it's being taught, and we now have a whole youth program. They love it, and it's a whole different way of doing things. And so so now, but it was the father's idea. But I want them to, let me give you an example, like when it comes to womanhood. Okay. I tell the fathers this, and women, mothers this. I want them to appreciate. When you appreciate things, you take better care of it. You protect it, but you got to appreciate it. And I said, let's talk about womanhood, Father. I never tell a man not to hit his wife. He knows that. The law tells him that. I said, you know what? With Native Americans, the greatest creation of the Creator God is not the universe, it's not the earth. The greatest creation of the Creator is called womanhood. Why womanhood? It's because it is a woman that renews life. I'm sorry, a man can't do that. It is a woman that sustains life. She would breastfeed that child. A man can't do that either. It's a woman that brings beauty to life. If you go to even an office, she brings pictures and flowers into her. A guy doesn't do that. Well, a woman brings beauty to life. So the greatest creation of the Creator God, I tell them, is womanhood. I want men to really appreciate and understand the value. I said, women understand the value and power of womanhood. It's powerful. Now I say, the strongest thing on this earth is called motherhood. Why do I say that, motherhood? I say, you know what? Let me give you some stories. I said, during World War II, when our young men were invading the beaches of Normandy and Iwo Jima, they were being wounded, being blown up and shot on the beach. They were dying on the beaches. What were they crying for? For their cars? They were crying for their mothers. I go to a lot of prisons today, and inmates are still crying for their mothers, both male and female. There's a power about motherhood. There's nothing more powerful than that. And we say, so when you understand the power of womanhood and motherhood, you've come. I say, well, all I'm doing, people, is bringing back an old message. That's all I'm bringing back. I says that it will connect with you. And they recognize the message. And I said, you know what? I even tell men who are really traditional. I said, if you really call yourself a traditional Native American man, if you really believe that, that's wonderful. But if you really call yourself traditional, all women, regardless of their age, their race, all children, regardless of their race and their age, must feel safe in the presence of a traditional Native American man. Period. End of story. If you don't feel safe physically, emotionally, and socially, then you're not doing your job. Don't call yourself traditional, okay? Because you're insulting your forefathers. All women and all children should feel safe in our presence. And that's the end of our story.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's a piece of work. That's a work that we still have to, find ways to get into these spaces. Do you ever feel like you're overwhelmed by all of the issues you have to tackle? It seems like when you're working and you're getting good at working in one space, another one emerges. Is there any area of the work that you're still challenged by?
Well, I'm a lot of people that were utilizing. They're becoming like I got a lot. Some of my best facilitators are felons. Some of my best facilitators are uneducated. They're carrying on. I mean, they're phenomenal. They really because they enjoy helping others. They love it, and so again, it's not academic. It's not that. It's you got to make people feel. That's how that's how I started this thing. That's how you fall in love, and that's how you fall out of love. Because marriage is a living thing, and it has to be nourished. If it's not nourished, it's going to break up and fall apart.
Mhm.
Love is the very same way. So again, when people love this program, they love the message they bring. I say, you know what? To be effective, number one, you must love the people whom you serve. If you don't love the people whom you serve, then get out of the people business. Go lay carpet or something else. Okay. You must love the people whom you serve. That's because you have an education or a degree doesn't mean you love your people. Or because you're Native American doesn't mean you love your people.
Mhm.
Loving the people who not let me explain to them, but you know what? You can't give something if you don't have it. You must learn to like and even love yourself. That doesn't mean you're selfish because you can't give something if you don't have it. You give something and you give fake words instead of real love. Love what you bring to the, and then number two, love what you bring to the people you serve. Love the message you bring. So love the people you serve and love what you bring to the people you serve. And you know what? You're halfway there. Let me say precisely. You uplift them, make them feel welcome, wanted, needed, special because they are. Number two, then you encourage them. Number three, you assist them. We tell what that all means. Now, when you do that, you love the people whom you serve. You love what you bring to them. You've uplifted them. You've encouraged them. You've assisted them. You unknowingly have earned their trust and confidence. Now you can teach them. And just
Mhm.
because you have a degree, so what? Are you any good? You have 40 years of sobriety, so what? Are you any good? You have this. You have to do. You have to learn. Goodness has to come from within you. Okay, with the help of the Creator God. Okay, and we just go through a process. So now, when they learn that, then you have earned people's trust and confidence. Now you can teach them. They're all ears. They'll listen to you. So again, that's our method. I could go over that for the whole thing. And so we work on their self worth, their identity, and bringing purpose to their life, and that's what our whole program is based upon.
What are you still trying to achieve that you haven't achieved yet? What is it? What is that piece of work that you still haven't really got your hands around that you're keeps you up at night and you're trying to figure out how to solve that problem? What's that thing that you're still chasing?
I know I can't change the world, but I want to enlighten people, and people have now carrying this message, and we're doing that. And I like to take it to other cultures, other races. We did train a bunch out of Philadelphia, and years ago, there were three or four black men from Philadelphia, I believe they were, and they loved the program. They just loved it. I forget what their names were. I had to get back in touch with them. We even gave them a drum that said "Fatherhood is sacred," but they're the only African American group that we ever taught. But you know what? When I get into the African American group, you know what? They have a lot of commonalities with Native people. They really, really do. And so I would love to get to them too because they are special. African American people are special. They are
Mhm.
unique. You know what? And they're just as important as anybody else. And that's why I tell our people. I says, unfortunately, I used to work with a woman who was half African American and half Native American. That poor woman was tormented because she
Mhm.
was of a different race. No, 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 I tell me, don't you do that anymore. If I found mothers to do that, I said, I get on them. I said, because someday soon you're going to have children that are just as blonde and blue eyed as the next person or black as kinky hair as any next person. And if they're your blood, I said, if you have just a little Indian blood, Native blood in your ear, just a drop, understand something. We belong to you, you belong to us, we belong to each other. Simple as that. Simple as that. And if
Yeah.
you don't have any native blood in you, but if you love our people, we belong to you, you belong to us, we're one. That's all there is to it. That's the message we tell people. I don't
Yeah.
care what color you are, what race you are, what your past is, we belong to each other. And I
Yeah.
said, you're here on this earth to help do the Creator's work.
Yeah. I had the pleasure last year of being invited to speak at the Tribal National Association of Tribal Child Support Association. I think that's what
Mhm.
they call. Um, it was in Cherokee, North Carolina, in the
Uh-huh.
Cherokee Nation. Had never been up there before, had never even, just unaware. Like I learned about the Trail of Tears in school, but never kind of realized where I am in Georgia, the proximity I was
Mhm.
to that. You know what I'm saying? Because Georgia was at the base of where it began and how it moved, and then up that way and then across the Arkansas and going out
Mhm.
west. But I was, 400 people there from across that particular region, talking about, fatherhood and talking about how they were going to build these TANF and child support programs within their nations to help with that issue. And one of the things I said is it is admirable to do that, to want to create an infrastructure around this work. But be careful about the models that you're using to do it, particularly if those models have not had the level of success that you are seeking. And I told the story about how several years ago when I went to Africa for the first time, and we went and we were teaching like 300 teachers in Ghana. And I asked we had an open conversation about slavery. And I said, so you ask us, meaning the folks that were there from the US, any question you want to ask, and we're going to ask you any question we want to ask, asking Africans. And my first question was, what do you know about slavery? That was my question. And she said, we don't know much of anything. And it shocked me. And I was like, wait, what? Like, you don't know much of anything. She says, you have to understand that when people were taken from here to the US, that we have no knowledge base of what happened to you when you were taken, because we were still focused on trying to survive here. And that is not taught in our schools. And I'm like, wow. I said, because in our country, we have never been taught about what we were taken from. So we have no idea what what was left behind. We don't have a sense of what that is. And when I went to speak to them about creating a model, I said, one of the things I realized in talking to them is that in America, we always are gauging ourselves, our communities, up against someone else. I said, in Africa, their expectations and goals around success is based on their own imagination and want. It's not up against another culture in the country. This is our expectation for our children. This is our expectation for our children. And this is the litmus test for success. And I said to them last year, I said, whatever system you're going to create, make sure it is based on your own expectation of success for your community, and not the expectation of limited frames of thought based on another model. You have the ability, if that's what you want to do, to create a system that will actually work for you, that you can kind of do those things or not. And so when I talking to you and listening to your path, and listening to the work that you're doing and thinking about the work that's taking place across the country in these communities, is it still something that needs to be done in native communities that we're not thinking about, that needs to be done in this space around parenting and relationships? Or is it all internal?
Well, I think that right now, Native Americans have the highest rates of suicide, teen pregnancy, school dropouts, and yet we come from a great, great heritage and culture. And I tell them that, my whole thrust now is that how do we, three things, how do we strengthen families that are already intact? How do we keep families together, and how do we reunite families? Because if you don't have a family, you walk through life all alone. It's easy to get discouraged. A lot of fear takes place, and the list goes on and on. You become lost and confused. So we need family. That's why I said, if you really want to help your people, make a goal to become the best father, the best husband you can possibly be, the best mother, the best wife you can possibly be. That's how you help your people. You start within the walls of your own home. That's how you do it.
Nice. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you more than you know. I keep saying to myself, I got to get to one of your conferences. I was talking to Patrick, I think it was last year, because your last conference, I think, was just in Hawaii. And then we were kind of talking about, I said, man, I said, our conference is in Hawaii. I've seen this thing. It keeps coming across my emails. I'm like, I'm really tempted to go. He says, why? I said, I just want to go. I just want to see what he's doing. I just want to see what's happening. I just want to see and be in the midst of what he's doing. And so, because you are doing it at a level that may not seem beyond what other people are doing it, but you are, sir. You are really doing something phenomenal. And God's hand is on your work. That is why you are able to expand and move, regardless of all the stuff that you and I have walked alongside each other and saw how things occurred and how things move. We still, even within the mess, continue to move and do what we needed to do in our own communities and prospered by doing that and staying focused on what the calling was in our lives. And so I admire you for that. And that's why I always have my eye on you. As I say, I low level stalk. So you may not see me, you may not hear me, but I'm always paying attention and watching and cheering you on in the work that you're doing. And so at some point, hopefully, we can find a way to get engaged in doing some things and elevating this thing even beyond the level that it already is. And so I thank you for all that you bring to the space.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day. Okay. Thank you.
Take care. And to all of my I Am Dad podcast listeners, you know how I like to leave you. Always be kind to others as you are kind to yourself, or you might find yourself by yourself. Always shoot high for your goals, because even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. And that's my good friend and mentor, art mentor, used to always say to me, Kenny, it's nice to be important, but it's much more important to be nice. Until next Sunday, God bless. Take care of yourself, and peace out.
Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us. You've been listening to I Am Dad Podcast. We hope that you have been informed, encouraged you to think, or even inspired your heart for the love of dads. The conversation does not end here. Come back and join us next week. Same time, same place. Or you can continue the dialogue on our I Am Dad Facebook page. We also invite you to listen to past episodes, learn more about us, and keep up with special activities by visiting IamDadPodcast.com. That's IamDadPodcast.com. Until next time, I leave you with this reminder of manhood from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Because of this reminder, I will always understand that I am dad, period.
Yeah.